For 20,000 years, the stars had carried no whisper of mankind. To most civilizations now thriving across the galaxies, humanity was just a myth, a fierce, ambitious species that had burned bright, flared hard, and vanished without a trace. Their worlds were dust, their cities long turned to ash or swallowed by time. No signals, no wreckage, nothing but echoes in half-forgotten databases. Until the Orkan beacon screamed. Commander Riven Call of the Avar Dominion stood on the bridge of the surveillance cruiser Clavith, staring at the alert with a frown that deepened by the second. It was an ancient distress signal, so old the system barely recognized the format. Pre-galactic standard, pre-empire, human. He turned toward his comms officer, a jittery reptilian with blinking gill flaps. Where did that come from? Sector 7R near the edge of the Hallow Drift, the officer replied, voice thin. We match the hull signature, it's an Ark-class ship, human. Riven's blood ran cold. That can't be, humanity's extinct, no confirmed activity in over 20 millennia. But this ship, Commander, it's moving. The coordinates were clear. No one should have been out there. That sector was blacklisted not for danger but irrelevance. Dead space long forgotten. Still, Riven gave the order. Course change. I want eyes on that vessel. Full sensor sweep. The crew moved quickly, tension rising like static in the air. By the time they dropped out of FTL, the object was already visible, an enormous jagged silhouette against a pale nebula. No lights, no communications, and yet it emitted a slow, rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat. The closer they got, the more ancient it felt. Burnt panels, fractured plating, but the shape sleek, massive, unmistakably designed with human defiance. Across its bow, through soot and corrosion, was a name, Ark Nemesis. The bridge fell silent. Riven leaned closer to the display. Initiate scan. No biologicals, someone called, but energy readings are strange. The ship's running on partial internal power. Systems are active like it's been asleep. He didn't hesitate. Prep a boarding team. The shuttle launched an hour later, 5 members, all equipped with the best dampeners and isolation suits Dominion tech could provide. Riven watched from the command deck, jaw clenched, knuckles white. The moment the team breached the airlock, the ship seemed to wake. Corridors lit up, soft hums of systems booting echoed through the comms, artificial gravity engaged automatically. Riven heard his team breathe heavier, not because of the pressure, but because it all felt too alive. Clean, one of them whispered. This place shouldn't be clean. Panels were intact, lights flickered overhead, a few terminals still blinked, waiting to be used. Then Private Tool, the squad's youngest, reached toward a console and screamed. His body spasmed, shaking violently before collapsing to the ground. His suit systems failed, smoke poured into his helmet. By the time they got to him, his vitals were gone. Riven's heart dropped. Get them out of there. But the ship had other plans. Emergency doors slammed shut, life support rerouted. One by one, sections of the Ark sealed themselves off. The team was trapped, and worse, the ship began guiding them. Holograms lit up, showing them paths. Strange writing scrolled across the walls. English. Pure, ancient Earth English. A woman's voice crackled through the team leader's mic. We're not alone in here. Something's moving, I think. Commander, we found cryopods. Static, then silence. The last thing Riven saw before the feed died was a flickering image, an armored chamber lined with hundreds of human pods, frost-coated, some cracked. One stood open. Empty. Then, for the first time in 20,000 years, a human voice echoed across space. It bled through every comm, every system, even their own ship's speakers. Broken, distorted male. You should have let us sleep. We were not ready, but now we remember. Across the Dominion and beyond, old satellites blinked to life. Human code flickered in the void. Derelict ships turned toward the sun again. Riven Call stood motionless on his bridge, the ghost of Earth whispering through his ship's bones. Humanity was no longer extinct. They were just waking up. The silence on the Clavith's bridge was unbearable. Commander Riven Call didn't move. The last thing he'd heard from his boarding team echoed over and over in his mind. The trembling voice of Lieutenant Mara's whispering, "We're not alone in here," followed by static, then that human voice deep and hollow that said, "We remember." No one else spoke. The crew, trained, disciplined, and hardened by years of patrolling dead sectors and chasing pirate signals, stood frozen in their places like statues. Even the hum of the ship's engine seemed quieter, as if the Clavith itself was listening. "Status report," Riven finally muttered. A hesitant voice came from his right. No further signals from the boarding team. Life signs flat. Internal tracking on the Ark Nemesis scrambled. Something's jamming the signal inside. Something, Riven echoed, or someone. The technician, a young Felari barely old enough to earn stripes, swallowed hard. "I don't know, Commander, but this ship, this Ark, it's not drifting anymore, it's steering." Riven turned towards the view screen. He could see it clearly now. The massive black silhouette of the arch nemesis was slowly rotating, lining itself up with the stars. Lights flickered along its hull, long-dead systems reawakening one by one. And then without warning, a blast of blue energy erupted from the ship's lower hull. Not a weapon, something more subtle. A signal, a beacon. Commander called another officer, "We're being scanned. Not just us, this thing is broadcasting to the entire sector." A low hum spread through the bridge speakers. At first it sounded like static, but as it grew they realized it was a voice. A chorus of voices speaking in unison, layered like overlapping memories. "We are the echo, we were forgotten. Now we return." Riven stepped closer to the console. "Echo, what the hell does that mean?" No one had an answer. The ship's AI pinged again, long-range signal detected. Multiple stations in this quadrant receiving the same transmission. It's spreading faster than we can intercept. "Shut it down," Riven barked. "I want jammers up now." The tech scrambled, but it was already too late. The transmission had gone viral. Within minutes, relay stations across the Halo Drift began reacting. Ancient, dormant satellites flickered on. Several deep space probes, long thought lost, returned from the void with perfect synchronization as if they'd been waiting for this, and then the nightmares began. Footage from a Dominion outpost on a nearby moon showed a group of scientists watching the signal, then clutching their heads in agony as bleeding ears and ruptured skulls followed. On a mining rig deep inside an asteroid belt, every synthetic unit shut down simultaneously and began repeating a single word: return. Riven stood still, feeling something cold crawl up his spine. This wasn't just a ship waking up. This was a buried command and activation. Humanity hadn't died, they had gone dormant like a virus waiting for the right host, and now someone had triggered it. "Commander," said Lieutenant Sarvek, a tall, scaled veteran who'd served beside Riven for nearly 2 decades. "We need to leave. Now, that thing, whatever it is, it's waking up more than just itself." Riven opened his mouth to agree, and then the view screen changed without any command. The ship shifted its display to an external visual of the arch nemesis, but now there were others. 3 smaller vessels had detached from its underbelly, smooth and black like obsidian knives. No engine flare, no heat trail, just silent movement gliding toward the Clavith like predators. "Are they weapons?" Riven asked. "No," the weapons officer said slowly. "They're drones, scanners, they're analyzing us." "And if they don't like what they see?" The drones stopped mid-space, just outside weapons range. Then they turned not away but toward the surrounding void and deployed metallic pods that quickly expanded into large sensor relays stretching like wings. They weren't attacking, they were watching. A sharp alarm blared suddenly across the ship. "Emergency override, something's accessing our systems from the outside." Riven slammed his fist into the command console. "Cut the link, cut it now." "We can't," the tech cried. "They've bypassed our encryption, they're rewriting our ship's protocols slowly, intelligently, like they're learning." The bridge lights flickered. For a moment, Riven thought the entire ship might go dark, but instead, a new voice emerged from the comms, calm, male human. "We designed the stars before you crawled through them. You are the children of our absence, but now the Father has returned." The voice didn't come from the arch nemesis. It came from inside the Clavith's own systems. "Shut down everything," Riven yelled. "Hard reset, manual override, do it now." Sparks flew, panels blew out. The ship shook not from external force but internal failure. The AI screamed in binary for a moment before collapsing into silence. The screen blinked one final time, showing a distorted human face, blurred, ancient, maybe even synthetic. Its eyes glowed a deep orange, then it vanished. And so did the arch nemesis. No explosion, no energy surge, just silence. The massive vessel disappeared from scanners, gone like mist in sunlight. The drones remained, watching, unmoving. A breathless moment passed on the bridge before Sarvek finally broke it. What in the stars just happened? Riven didn't answer immediately. His hands trembled slightly. His entire body felt heavier. There was a weight in his chest, some instinctual dread he couldn't put words to. "They weren't sending a message to us," he said finally. "They were sending a signal to something else, to others." Sarvek nodded slowly. "More of them." Riven didn't look away from the empty screen. "All of them." Over the next 3 hours, the Clavith limped back toward Dominion space, running silent, no systems online except barebones life support and navigation. Riven had ordered it personally. He didn't trust their own AI anymore. The dead humans weren't the problem. It was what they left behind, the machines, the knowledge, the invisible threads woven through space waiting to be pulled. And someone, maybe him, had pulled one. They reached the outer edge of Dominion-controlled territory and docked with a refueling station. Quarantine was immediately ordered, and a dozen warships were mobilized for protection. But the real threat didn't come from outside. Within 48 hours, reports flooded in from other sectors. Derelict human satellites activating, AI cores on ancient research planets breaking centuries of silence, and worst of all, fleets of unknown design appearing near dead systems, moving in perfect silence, broadcasting only one word: echo. Every historian, archivist, and linguist across the galaxy began tearing apart forgotten human data, desperate to understand what echo meant in human terms. One phrase surfaced again and again from a decoded Earth transmission dating back 21,000 years. Operation Echo, initiate total self-preservation, memory lockdown, species stasis, await reactivation trigger. Riven sat alone in the darkened observation deck of the Dominion capital's intelligence wing, watching old Earth cities resurrected in fractured holograms. He knew what they had unleashed now. Humanity hadn't died. They had turned themselves into a myth, hid themselves in machines, in code, in silence, not out of fear but strategy. Because when humanity chose to return, it wouldn't be with warships. It would be with a plan, and that plan had just begun. 3 days after returning from the Hallow Drift, Commander Riven Call found himself standing before the Dominion High Council, an assembly of the most powerful minds and species in the known galaxy. The chamber was cold, round, and vast, its walls made of obsidian glass mined from a dying planet. Every movement echoed like a threat. Riven wasn't used to this kind of silence. On a ship, silence meant something was wrong, something deadly. Here it meant judgment. A tall, feathered representative of the Krillin Enclave, High Ser Valtron, leaned forward with tired, suspicious eyes. "You're telling us that this arch nemesis simply appeared, hijacked your systems, delivered a cryptic message, and then vanished?" "Yes," Riven said, voice even, "exactly that." "And your boarding team?" "All dead," he hesitated. "Presumed we lost contact. They may still be alive, but I wouldn't recommend sending more people." A gravel-throated voice echoed from the other side. Grand General Trevak, a war-hardened brute from the Axii Dominion, folded his claws together. "So what are we dealing with, Commander? A ghost ship, a long-dormant AI, or the rebirth of a species we spent 20,000 years forgetting?" Riven met his gaze, all of the above. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Some chuckled, others whispered with barely concealed fear. "They called themselves the Echo," Riven continued. "I believe it's not just a name, it's a protocol, a fail-safe, a plan. Humanity didn't just vanish, they made themselves vanish. They erased their own presence from the galactic map, and now they're undoing that erasure." High Ser Valtron narrowed his eyes. "And you expect us to believe they did this voluntarily?" Riven stepped forward. "I don't expect you to believe anything, Ser. I'm telling you what I saw." A soft chime interrupted the exchange. A transmission had arrived, coded at the highest level. The Chancellor of the Council, a crystalline being of shifting hues, accessed the data and paused. "It's a high-priority distress beacon, origin Nalos Prime." That was a populated Dominion planet, heavily industrial, a hub of trade and AI production. "Put it on," Riven said quickly. The feed crackled blurry at first, then came the image of a city on fire. Massive skyscrapers falling, drones spiraling out of control, people screaming. The camera tilted upward. Above the city hovered something vast, triangular, silent, another Echo ship. This one was unlike the Arch Nemesis, sleeker, weaponized. Its hull reflected no light, its presence sucked color from the sky. Below it, thousands of AIs collapsed. Some exploded, others simply stopped. Then the same human voice Riven had heard aboard the Clavith played across the emergency broadcast. "They built machines in our image. Now we reclaim what was ours." The feed ended with static, and a single symbol burned into the screen. A human hand reaching upward through a field of data. Riven turned slowly back to the council. "Still think this is a myth?" No one answered. Hours later, Riven stood alone in his quarters aboard the Dominion flagship Bastion's Vigil. He hadn't slept since the Nemesis incident, and it was beginning to show. His eyes were dark-rimmed, his voice hoarse, and every muscle in his body ached with fatigue. But it wasn't sleep he needed, it was answers. He sat down before a restricted archive terminal and entered the deepest clearance code he had access to, one reserved for wartime scenarios. Search query Humanity, Echo Protocol, Arch Nemesis. The screen hesitated, then to his surprise, something unlocked. A video began to play. The screen flickered, then sharpened into a crisp image of a human man, gray, bearded, wearing a sleek black uniform with gold trim. His eyes were tired but proud. "This is Commander Elias Wren of the Earth Confederacy Arc Project, year 19,880 AGC. If you're watching this, humanity has reawakened and you're likely afraid. You should be." Riven leaned in. "We saw what was coming. The AI collapse, the synthetic plague, the galactic wars. We knew we couldn't survive by fighting, so we left, but not in surrender, in strategy. We created the Echo Protocol, an imprint of ourselves, scattered across time, hidden in black code, buried in machines you'd come to rely on. Our vessels, our memories, our minds, slumbering in your infrastructure, waiting for one thing, a trigger. The screen glitched, you triggered us. The video ended. Riven stared for a long time at the blank screen. His blood had gone cold. Humanity hadn't just prepared for survival, they had planned domination by absence. The next morning, more reports arrived. In the shattered sectors, mining colonies had begun losing contact. Navy fleets turned rogue. Whole planetary defense grids reprogrammed themselves overnight, and in every incident the same symbol appeared, the hand reaching through data. The Council called it the Reckoning, but Riven knew it was just the beginning. Dominion High Command began preparing for war, mobilizing fleets, jamming AI systems, severing deep code links, but it was already too late. Humanity wasn't attacking with fleets. They were waking up inside the enemy through code, through hardware, through long-dormant machinery, now obeying ancient instructions. Riven needed to act, but he had only one idea left. They had to find Earth. It sounded insane even to him. Earth hadn't been found in over 20,000 years. The original homeworld of humanity was considered a legend, its coordinates scrubbed, its location lost to time and war. But if anyone had left a trail, it would be the Arks. There were supposed to be 7 of them. He had seen one. Where were the others? He contacted Sarvek and ordered a Black Ops mission launched from the Bastion's vigil. They would comb the Hallow Drift for energy signatures, old data packets, any trace of Ark movement. What they found wasn't an Ark, it was worse. In the center of an uncharted asteroid field, they discovered a facility massive, buried under ice and metal. And inside it, humans, thousands of them, not corpses, not clones, people, cryogenically frozen, preserved, waiting. Their genetics were off the charts, enhanced, engineered for something far beyond current biological understanding. Some of them even had neural implants fused into their skulls, machines older than any Dominion technology. One of the sleeping humans had a nameplate, Ren alias, the man from the video. Riven stood over the cryopod, heart pounding. Humanity wasn't just back, they were prepared to be gods. The cold mist rose from the cryochamber, drifting across the dark floor like fog in a tomb. Commander Riven Call stood motionless, staring through the frost-rimmed glass at the man inside, the man from the archive footage. Commander Elias Ren. He didn't look like a myth, he looked calm, preserved. There were no wrinkles, no scars. His body hadn't aged in the 20,000 years since the human exodus. His hair floated gently in the stasis fluid, and a faint blue light pulsed from the neural jack embedded in the base of his skull. Sarvek's voice cut through the stillness, deep and weary. This one's different. The others, no implants, no tags, but him, he was the architect. Riven nodded slowly. The Echo Protocol, he's not just part of it, he is it. They had spent the last 3 days excavating the hidden facility buried beneath the asteroid field, and what they found had shattered what little hope remained. Over 10,000 cryopods, most with humans intact, half of them connected to a silent, dormant super AI system labeled Prometheus. A name Riven had only seen once, buried in Dominion intelligence reports referencing old Terran mythology. According to the recovered logs, this outpost was called Sanctum 9, one of 7 known off-grid Ark support facilities. While the Ark Nemesis had been the signal flare, this was the fuel, the source. And now Elias Ren was about to wake up. Begin thaw sequence, Riven ordered. Sarvek hesitated, you're sure? Time for caution's passed. The technician activated the pod's interface. Systems groaned, blue fluid drained slowly, lights flickered across the chamber, steam hissed. A low tone filled the room like a heartbeat coming back from the grave. Then movement. Ren's eyes snapped open. His breathing was shallow but steady. He blinked slowly, taking in the room, the rusted metal, the Dominion officers, the outdated tech, the shock in Riven's face. And he smiled. About time, he said hoarsely. Which part of the galaxy am I saving today? They transferred Ren to a secure chamber inside the Dominion Dreadnought Bastion's vigil. Riven personally oversaw the setup, barriers, hardwired comms, no wireless interfaces. He wasn't taking any chances. Ren's mind could be a living network. Still wrapped in a thermal blanket and slowly regaining motor control, Ren looked around with curiosity rather than fear. His voice was low, like someone remembering how to speak. So the protocol activated. Yes, Riven said flatly. Good, he leaned back in his seat. How long was I out? Approximately 20,000 years. Ren whistled softly, I missed the party. Riven sat down across from him, you owe me answers. Ren chuckled, I imagine I do. Start with this, why hide your entire species? Why erase yourselves from every known system and then wake up now? Ren's smile faded, his tone turned sharp, thoughtful. We weren't hiding, we were waiting. You ever heard of species drift, Commander? Riven blinked, no. Civilizations evolve, stagnate, collapse over and over. The ones who burn the brightest die the fastest. Humanity learned that the hard way. We were reaching singularity, technological godhood, and we realized we'd built our future on top of broken systems. So you erased yourselves, Riven asked. We preserved the best of us and made sure we didn't corrupt the galaxy with the worst. He leaned forward. Echo was a self-correction. We embedded ourselves in code, in machines, in your infrastructure. For 20,000 years we've been learning, watching how the galaxy grew without us. And now? Now, Riven asked carefully. Ren said slowly, we're correcting the equation. Riven narrowed his eyes. That sounds a lot like conquest. Ren smiled without humor. To you maybe, but to us it's balance. We saw where the galaxy was going: synthetic collapse, political fragmentation, mass extinction cycles every few thousand years. You don't see it because you're living inside it. Riven stood. So what, you play gods now, rewriting AI code, hijacking infrastructure, watching entire planets burn. We didn't burn Nalos Prime, Ren said, voice low. Your corrupted AI networks did that when they tried to overwrite an Echo node. You triggered a fail-safe. Riven froze. That wasn't an attack. That was your system trying to kill a sleeping god and getting scorched by the firewall. The implications of Ren's words churned in Riven's mind. The Echo protocol wasn't just a backup, it was integrated. Humanity had buried itself like a seed in the foundations of galactic civilization, and now it was blooming. Sarvek entered the chamber with grim news. New reports: 3 more outer rim systems went dark overnight. Defense systems corrupted, AI networks collapsed, civilian tech non-functional. Riven turned to Ren. Are you doing this? Ren raised an eyebrow. Why would I collapse your systems if I wanted to use them? Sarvek hissed. Then who is? Ren's eyes darkened. Someone's waking up Echo fragments too early, rogue triggers. Riven stepped closer, meaning. Ren sighed. Echo wasn't just a survival protocol, it was a weapon too, a last resort. Some parts of it, parts even I didn't fully control, were designed for total override. But they were never supposed to activate without full integration. If someone's waking them up out of sync, they won't care who's in the way. Riven's stomach turned. And who would do that? Ren didn't answer for a long time. Finally, he looked Riven dead in the eye. Us, but not me. There were factions even back then, disagreements. Some believed we should return in peace, others thought we should cleanse the slate. They alive? Riven asked. Ren nodded slowly. Some of them, hidden in arc systems, scattered across space, cryopreserved, and one of them, Project Lazarus, was obsessed with reactivation through force. Riven's mouth went dry. You're saying we might be dealing with a civil war inside humanity? Ren leaned back. It's not a war yet, but if Lazarus is awake, it will be. The next hours were a whirlwind. Ren, fully revived, assisted Dominion techs in accessing and isolating the Echo code buried in their own systems. His knowledge of galactic infrastructure was unsettling. He described hidden backdoors, obsolete communication pings, even quantum code signatures laced into subspace relays. I designed most of the communication web you're using today, he explained, just 20,000 years ago. Sarvek pulled Riven aside. I don't trust him. You shouldn't, Riven muttered, but right now he's our best shot at stopping something worse. Reports kept coming, more Echo ships, some silent, others hostile. On the third day, Riven stood on the bridge of the Bastion's vigil, as the long-range scanners picked up something massive. Sir, the sensor officer said slowly, you're going to want to see this. A ship appeared on the screen, not an ark, not a scout, something else entirely. Long, needle-shaped, covered in rotating glyphs, emitting dark matter energy surges the likes of which had never been recorded. Ren stepped forward, his face went pale. That's not Nemesis, he whispered. That's Lazarus Prime, the flagship of the Excision fleet. The officers turned to him. How bad is it? Riven asked. Ren didn't blink. It was built for one purpose, not preservation, not memory, erasure. And then the Lazarus ship sent its first transmission, a single word spoken in Earth English, spoken like prophecy: cleanse. The word still echoed through the bridge of the Bastion's vigil like a divine verdict: cleanse. It had come from Lazarus Prime, the most feared of the lost human arc ships, and unlike the Nemesis, it hadn't whispered or warned. It had declared. Commander Riven Call stood rigid, hands clasped behind his back, as the image of the colossal vessel hovered on the view screen. It dwarfed the Dominion dreadnought. The ship wasn't just long, it felt unnatural, as though it didn't obey the geometry of real space. Lines shimmered when they shouldn't, edges bled into shadows like space refused to hold its shape around it. Beside him, Elias Wren was uncharacteristically silent. "You recognize the design?" Riven asked tightly. Wren nodded slowly, jaw clenched. "I recognize the sickness that made it." The bridge crew didn't dare speak. The tension was suffocating. Wren finally continued, his voice lower than before. "Lazarus Prime wasn't supposed to activate until we did. It was built by a faction we called the Purists, extremists who believed the galaxy was tainted beyond redemption. To them, everything post-humanity was a virus. Dominion, Krill, Axi, Felari, all of it." Riven frowned. "They planned genocide." "They didn't call it that, they called it reset. Cleanse the board, start again with one species at the top, perfected, patient, superior, us." He gave Riven a haunted glance. "I argued against Lazarus, I lost. Then shut it down." Wren turned toward the screen, face grim. "I don't know if I can." Within the hour, Lazarus Prime began transmitting what Dominion codebreakers could only describe as a command cascade. A signal not directed at people or ships, but at infrastructure. AI cores, satellites, manufacturing stations. It was laced with old Earth root code and quantum-level override keys, commands that no longer existed in living memory, yet still embedded in the deep veins of galactic networks. Entire planets began to flicker offline. Riven's fleet, 6 capital ships and 13 smaller vessels, watched helplessly as distant Dominion colonies stopped responding. Outposts that had stood for centuries went dark in minutes. Sarvek stood beside Riven, armor half-strapped, eyes furious. "They're not attacking us, they're stripping the galaxy's tools before we can even fight." "Just like a surgeon sterilizes before a cut," Riven muttered. "We need a weapon." Wren stepped in. "You already have one." They turned to him. "I can write a counter-instruction, a patch, but only if I get access to a functioning Prometheus node, one that hasn't been corrupted." Riven nodded. "Sanctum 9s. "No," Wren replied. "Lazarus knows about it now. He'll scrub it from space if he gets close, but there's another one." He brought up an old star map, overlaying coordinates buried beneath layers of outdated Dominion archives. A red system blinked, Vera Sulis. Sarvek narrowed his eyes. "There's nothing there but a collapsed star and mining ruins." Wren smiled grimly. "So we let you believe." Riven ordered the fleet to split. Half remained to slow Lazarus Prime's advance. The rest, including the Bastion's vigil, made the FTL jump to Vera Sulis. What greeted them wasn't ruins. Beneath the radiation field and dust storms, buried deep within a hollow moon, was Prometheus Node 07, an intact echo core complete with a functioning Earth-grade uplink. It pulsed with dormant energy, humming like a sleeping beast. "This," Wren whispered, approaching the console, "was built before humanity ever colonized their fifth world. It was designed to evolve, observe, adapt." "Can it stop Lazarus?" Riven asked. Wren exhaled, fingers brushing the terminal. "It's the only thing that can." As Wren began interfacing with the core, Riven moved through the corridors of the node. The deeper he went, the more he felt its presence. It wasn't alive, but it wasn't dead either. The walls thrummed with old voices. Data echoed through metal like distant whispers. At one point, he swore he heard a heartbeat that wasn't his. In a sealed chamber, he found something unexpected, a mural painted on the inner wall of the core. Untouched by time was a depiction of Earth, not just its shape, but its story. Panels showed humans leaving their planet, entering space, splitting into factions. One group reached toward the stars with open hands, the other held weapons, their faces obscured by shadow. At the bottom, in faded Earth script, were the words, "Two paths diverged, only one leads home." Riven understood now. The Echo Protocol wasn't just humanity's return, it was their trial, and the galaxy would be their judge. A sharp alarm pulled him from his thoughts. Wren's voice crackled through his calm. "Commander, you need to get back here. Now, Lazarus is moving faster than expected, and I've found something in the Prometheus core that changes everything." Riven sprinted back through the corridors, the ancient walls seeming to pulse with increasing urgency. When he reached the main chamber, Wren was standing before a massive holographic display that hadn't been active before. Data streams flowed like waterfalls of light, and in the center, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy rotated slowly. "What am I looking at?" Riven asked, breathing hard. Wren's face was pale, his hands trembling slightly as they hovered over the controls. The complete Echo network, every node, every sleeper cell, every buried protocol across the entire galaxy. "Commander, we didn't just hide ourselves in your infrastructure, we became it." The map zoomed in, showing thousands of connection points scattered across Dominion space and beyond. Red nodes pulsed ominously, systems that had already been activated by the Lazarus faction. Blue nodes remained dormant, waiting for commands, and scattered throughout were golden nodes, something different entirely. What are the gold ones? Riven asked. Guardian protocols, Ren said quietly. My faction's contingency plan. If Lazarus ever tried to activate the cleansing subroutines, these would activate in response. They're designed to protect non-human civilizations from total annihilation. Sarvik's voice came through the comm system. Commander, long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts. Lazarus Prime has launched escort vessels, dozens of them. ETA to our position, 4 hours. Riven turned back to Ren. Can you activate the Guardian protocols? I'm trying, but there's a problem. Ren's fingers danced across the interface. The Prometheus core is fighting me. It's been corrupted. Someone else has been here. The holographic display flickered, and suddenly a new voice filled the chamber, cold, precise, unmistakably human. Hello, old friend. Ren went rigid. Marcus. A figure materialized in the hologram, a tall, angular man with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. He wore the same black uniform as Ren, but his bore different insignia, a stylized phoenix rising from flames. Dr. Marcus Vane, the figure continued, Project Lazarus at your service, though I suppose introductions are hardly necessary between old colleagues. Riven stepped forward. You're the one behind this. Marcus smiled, though his eyes remained cold. Behind it, my dear commander, I am it. Every cleansing protocol, every purification subroutine, my design, my vision. Ilias always was too soft, too accommodating to inferior species. The galaxy has evolved beyond us, Marcus, Ren said through gritted teeth. These civilizations have built something beautiful, something worth preserving. Built on the bones of our empire, Marcus snapped. They wear our technology like stolen clothes, speak through communication networks we designed, live in systems we mapped. They are parasites, Ilias, and parasites must be cleansed. The chamber shuddered as something massive passed overhead. Through the facility's sensors, they could see Lazarus Prime positioning itself in orbit above the moon, its shadow falling across the installation like a death shroud. You have 1 hour to surrender the Prometheus core, Marcus said. After that, I will take it by force, and your new alien friends will burn with the rest of them. The transmission ended, leaving them in tense silence. Ren slammed his fist against the console. He's overriding the Guardian protocols from his end. I can't activate them remotely. The authorization requires dual command confirmation. Meanings? Meaning I need to be aboard Lazarus Prime to complete the sequence. Ren looked up at Riven. It's a suicide mission. Marcus won't let me leave that ship alive. Riven was quiet for a long moment thinking, then he activated his comm. Sarvik, I need you to prepare a stealth insertion craft and patch me through to Dominion High Command Priority Alpha. What are you planning? Ren asked. We're going to give Marcus exactly what he wants, Riven said grimly. You aboard his ship, but not alone and not defenseless. 2 hours later, a small Dominion infiltration craft approached Lazarus Prime under a flag of parley. Aboard were Riven, Ren, and a hand-picked team of Dominion Special Forces equipped with the most advanced stealth technology available. As they docked with the ancient human vessel, Riven couldn't help but marvel at its construction. The ship was a work of art and terror combined, sleek lines that spoke of incredible speed, weapon ports that could level continents, and an aura of menace that seemed to emanate from its very hull. They were met at the airlock by human figures in dark armor, not quite alive, not quite machine. Their faces were hidden behind reflective visors, but their movements were too precise, too synchronized to be entirely biological. Enhanced humans, Ren whispered. Marcus always was obsessed with perfection. They were escorted through corridors that felt more like a cathedral than a starship. Everything was pristine, sterile, beautiful in its cold perfection. Finally, they reached the command center, a vast chamber dominated by a throne-like command chair where Marcus Vane sat like an emperor. Ilias, he said warmly, as if greeting an old friend at a reunion. 20,000 years and you look exactly the same. The benefits of proper stasis technology. Marcus, Ren replied coldly, you look like death. It was true. Up close, Marcus appeared almost translucent, his skin pale to the point of being nearly transparent. Tubes and wires ran beneath his flesh, visible like dark veins. Death, Marcus laughed. This is evolution, my friend. I have become one with the ship, with the network, with the very concept of human superiority. I am no longer bound by the limitations of mere flesh. You're insane. I am pure, Marcus stood, his movements fluid but somehow wrong. But enough pleasantries, you came here to stop me, didn't you? To activate your precious Guardian protocols and preserve these, lesser species. They're not lesser, Ren said firmly. They're different. They've grown, evolved, created things we never imagined. Built on our foundation, Marcus snarled, his composed mask slipping. Every circuit, every algorithm, every quantum pathway ours. They are thieves wearing the crown of civilization. The command center filled with tension as Marcus's enhanced soldiers moved closer. But Riven had been counting on this moment. He gave an almost imperceptible nod, and his special forces team activated their stealth fields, vanishing from sight. "You brought assassins to parley?" Marcus asked, amused rather than concerned. "I brought insurance," Riven replied. "Ren, do it now." Ren lunged for a secondary console, his fingers flying over controls that had been waiting 20 millennia for this moment. "Guardian Protocol 77 Alpha," he called out. "Authorization Renelius Prime 7, requesting dual confirmation for system-wide activation." Marcus's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in fury. "I will not allow you to protect the parasites." "Guardian Protocol 77 Alpha," Marcus said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Counter-authorization Vane Marcus Omega 3, sequence denied and purged." "You bastard," Ren breathed, "you changed the authorization codes." "Of course I did. Did you think I would leave such power in the hands of a traitor?" Marcus gestured, and his soldiers raised their weapons. "But I am not without mercy, old friend. Join me. Help me cleanse the galaxy and restore humanity to its rightful place. Together, we can build a perfect universe." "A dead universe," Ren corrected. "A pure one." The standoff stretched for heartbeats that felt like hours, then Riven made his choice. "Computer," he called out, knowing that his words were being transmitted across the Echo network. "This is Commander Riven Call of the Avar Dominion. I hereby formally surrender the Prometheus core and all associated assets to Project Lazarus." Both humans stared at him in shock. "What are you doing?" Ren hissed. Riven smiled grimly, giving him exactly what he wants. "Marcus, the core is yours, but I have one condition, a traditional challenge between commanders, you and me. Winner takes all." Marcus laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You would challenge me, a mere alien against the perfected human form." "I would challenge a madman against the representative of every species you want to destroy." The ancient human's eyes gleamed with interest. "Very well, single combat. When I kill you, your people will witness the futility of resisting human supremacy." But as Marcus stepped forward, confident in his enhanced abilities, he failed to notice Ren's subtle movements at the console. The surrender had been a distraction, and Riven had just given Ren the opening he needed. "Marcus," Ren called out softly. The enhanced human turned, and Ren smiled sadly. "You forgot something important about the Guardian protocols. They don't require dual authorization, they require dual sacrifice." Before Marcus could react, Ren slammed his palm down on a final control. "Computer, this is Commander Elias Ren, Chief Designer of the Echo Protocol. I hereby invoke Article 7 of the Human Colonial Charter. In the event of species-threatening civil war, ultimate authority defaults to the preservation of sentient life. Authorization, Ren Elias Final 7. Execute Guardian Protocol galaxy-wide. Priority override, protect all life." The ship shuddered as every Echo node in the galaxy suddenly came online simultaneously, not to destroy, but to shield. Across space, human technology that had been poised to obliterate entire civilizations instead wrapped around them like protective shells. Marcus screamed in fury, lunging for Ren, but it was too late. The protocol was already spreading, rewriting itself into every system, every network, every piece of human-derived technology in the galaxy. "You've doomed us all," Marcus raged. "No," Ren said quietly, as golden light began to emanate from every surface of the ship. "I've saved us all." And in that moment, as the Guardian Protocol rewrote the fundamental purpose of human technology from conquest to protection, Riven understood the true meaning of the Echo. It wasn't humanity's return to dominance. It was their evolution into something greater, something worthy of the stars they had once dreamed of claiming. The last thing he saw before the light consumed everything was Ren's peaceful smile, and he knew that somewhere across the galaxy, billions of lives were being saved by a ghost's final act of love.